Tree Talking Time is brought to you by Conkey's Outdoors. Get all your hound hunting needs at conkeys.com. Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest feists to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. Need reliable housing for your animals? Animal Housing Solutions in Mayo, Florida builds custom coops, kennels, and shelters that are strong, durable, and designed with your animal's comfort in mind. Whether you need a large-scale kennel or a small custom chicken coop, they've got you covered. Quality craftsmanship, great service, and solutions built to last. That's the Animal Housing Solution promise. Check them out at Animal Housing Solutions on Facebook. Animal Housing Solutions, where your animals come first. Your dogs deserve the very best, and that's exactly what Elite Nutrition Canine Products delivers. Packed with premium ingredients and backed by science, their formulas are designed to boost energy, support joint health, and keep coats shiny and strong. Whether you've got a working dog, a hunting partner, or just a loyal best friend, Elite Nutrition gives them the fuel they need to thrive. Don't settle for ordinary. Choose the nutrition your dog deserves. Find Elite Nutrition Canine Products today and give your dog the Elite Edge. Go to shopeliteglobal.com and use the code TREE10 on your next purchase. John, how are you?
Well, I'm doing all right. I'm down at my playhouse.
I know.
I'm thinking about dogs.
I know it's been a long time since we talked, but
I didn't know exactly when you were going to put your first edition or your first magazine on, and so being that we had breed days, I thought I'd better call you and see when I could get cranked up, if I could get cranked up. But I'm thrilled to have the opportunity once again to maybe contribute an article or so and support your magazine in any way I can.
I really appreciate it. And I was almost at breed days this year. Katie actually asked me to put in a bid for doing the photography this year. But because my wife was about to have a baby, I'm like, I can't go that far away from the house this close to baby time. So I was like, any other year, I said, I've been wanting to come down to Plott days, breed days for a long time. I'm like, if it would have been any other year, I would have been all over that chance.
Well, maybe you can make it this next go round.
Maybe.
I hope so. Be nice to meet you and shake your hand.
Absolutely. And I don't know, there's just a lot of collective knowledge and history that comes to, APA Plott days. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen at other places, but your breed days is, I think, very, I don't know, it's very different from what I've heard and what I've seen of like videos and other podcasts and stuff that have been there. And so.
We now some of our old timers have gone on, but we had at one time a big, large crowd of old time bear hunters, that would come in and you'd stand around and listen to them tell stories and talk dogs. It was just really a good situation to be in, and we still have some, and we have other locals there in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina are not that well known, but they come anyway.
Yeah.
And though they come in bibbed overalls and slouch hats and things like that, brogan shoes.
Yeah.
And, it's just a joy to be around them. It really is. And we have this last breed days, I was just amazed at the crowd of people we had, especially the last day, just kids running everywhere. We just had the old timers and young folks. We raffled an electric bike. That was one of the raffle prizes. And the cool youngster, I think I would gauge him maybe 13 or 14. He won that electric bike. And boy,
Nice.
you talk about a happy camper. And he was.
Yeah.
He rode the thing off the hill. I guess it took it to his dad's pickup or something. We just people everywhere. You couldn't stir them with a stick. And this year we had a group of people. I never got a chance to introduce myself or to meet them, but they were Amish.
Okay.
And you could tell by their attire, and both men and women and little children. We'd never seen that, but they were just so welcome. We were just glad to have them. And I have a dear friend lives out in Oklahoma. He's a Creek Indian.
Okay.
And his name is Morning Bear. And he is a hog hunter deluxe and has some outstanding dogs. And it's always a joy to see him and meet him. I've known him about 4 years, and he has a lot of Plotts and Catahoulas.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're mixed, and they are just Jim Dandy hog dogs. They really are.
Yeah.
And he always has a camera handy and has a lot of good pictures, too, which I enjoy looking at.
I actually have mine's not a Catahoula, but I got a leopard. I mean, by UKC standards, leopard hound Plott cross dog here at the house, and I really like him.
Now, is it a cross between a Plott? Okay.
So I had a Plott for a little while, and I've had leopards for quite a few years, and that Plott dog got in with my leopard dog, and I had 10 happy accidents.
All right. Do they carry a lot of leopard distinctive spots and things?
There were several puppies in the litter that were just brindle that looked, like a Plott in color. But then there was quite a few that were merle, and even the male I kept, he's a red merle. Now, like if you look at him, most people think he's a red bone. And now his sire, the Plott dog, had a buckskin littermate, and he was like a red brindle. So I'm guessing he got the red / buckskin kind of color from the Plott, but then got merle from his mom.
Well, those merle dogs are really pretty.
Yeah.
They were leopard colored Plotts at one time, back in the 30s and 40s. Dogs owned by John Plott. And I've always, there weren't many pictures of them, but he had one called Lip that he really liked, and I think that was his favorite dog. And Ben, I've just seen one leopard Plott in my entire life, and they just have vanished from the scene, so to speak. But I just wish that Mother Nature would just pull something freakish and bring one out of the germplasm somewhere. I would really enjoy seeing it.
Unfortunately, any leopard Plotts that you find today would be a cross, because merle's a dominant gene, so it's not something that gets passed. If they don't have it, now if there's what's called a cryptic merle, and so it can kind of hide, but even like my male dog, like you can see spots, especially when he was a puppy. It was very obvious that he was a merle dog. Now today, as an adult dog, it's harder to tell. But if you know what you're looking at and you're looking for spots, you can see them. It's just a different, one's a little darker shade of brown or brownish red than the other. It's not like the gray and black that's very contrast. But
okay, yeah.
But you can see it. But like I said, it's kind of what's called a cryptic, and there are some that hide it better than others, and especially a lot of times you'll see it when they're first born, but then as they age, they'll start to see less and less of it.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
So unfortunately, if you see a leopard merle or a leopard colored Plott today, or a merle Plott, it's something like I got out here that's a crossbred dog.
I would say you're correct. Yes, I would.
So.
There's one that carries a lot of merle, or certainly unique looking dogs. Now, I think they're pretty myself. I missed my chance. It was in a Breed Days event back when we had the live bear.
Okay.
And there was a 3-dog cast, and this gentleman, there were 2 brindle dogs and this leopard colored dog. And, I judged it was a Plott, and their turn with the bear was over with, and I ran up to him. I said, "Do you know what you have?" He said, well, no. I said, you have a leopard Plott. And I said, they're very rare. It's the first one I've ever seen. I've seen pictures of them, but they're very rare. He said, would you like to have it? In other words, the dog hadn't done very well.
Yeah.
And I ought to have taken it. I really should have, but I didn't. But I have its picture, but that's the only one, Ben, I've ever seen.
No, I'm sure since you were using a live bear, that was more than a few years ago.
Well, that was back, I guess, in the 80s, probably, somewhere, 80s or early 90s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But John Plott, of course, Mott had them first, and he was dissatisfied with their performance. They came out of North Georgia, Elijah Crow cross. And
yes.
Anyway, he gave some of them passed away or died, and he gave the others away. And John Plott was working at a CCC camp down in Brevard, North Carolina, and he met Roland Owens. And Roland Owens had some of Mott's old stock, which were leopard colored.
Okay.
He got some of them, brought them back, and bred them up. And of course, Blue Joe came out of the same litter as Lep.
Okay.
But Blue Joe to me looked Maltese. Just looking at the photograph, I don't think you could really call him a leopard dog. But
yeah.
Anyway, that's just a very interesting part of the Plott past,
Yeah. Well, before we get too much into more of these Plott dogs, why don't you introduce yourself, Mr. Jackson?
Oh, okay. I'm John Jackson. Live up in the mountains of western North Carolina. It would be that area about where North Carolina and Virginia and Tennessee converge.
Mm-hmm.
78 years of age, had Plott dogs since 1976. Came from a family of hunters. My dad was an outstanding wing shot. He owned Brittany's, and I grew up hunting grouse, but I always wanted to coon hunt. And my dad had some black and tans at one time, but I was too small to go. But I was able to hook up with some people here in my community. I live in Watauga County, and I was able to hook up with them. And one person in particular I hunted a great deal with. His name was Elmer Norris. And I just learned so much, about all I've ever learned about hound dogs, particularly raccoon dogs, came from hunting with Elmer. And he was just a natural. He just had an encyclopedic knowledge of coons and coon hunting and coon dogs. And I got my first Plott, of course, I said, in two of them in 76 from Berlin King in Idaho, Virginia. It was real interesting. What really moved me to Plott. I was just hunting some off-breed dogs. Some of them were not full-blooded. And anyway, my friends, one of whom was Elmer Norris, caught a huge groundhog and put it in a cage, and we wanted to see what our dogs would do barking at that groundhog. And some of them failed miserably. Some of them were mediocre. But Scott Weinberger, another of my hunting friends, had two gray Plotts. And they were pretty rough on the cage. Mm-hmm. Groundhog was still in the cage. And somehow that door came open, and those two dogs grabbed that groundhog, and it was dead in 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
They mauled the ground with that groundhog. I was amazed. And I rushed home and got my latest edition of Full Cry and look where I could find nearby Plott. Yeah. And of course, it was the Berlin King up in Virginia, and 3 of us traveled up there, and I bought a male and a female. And that's what really got me started into Plotts. Now, here's a story that really goes way back. when I was young, I would say, maybe 10. My dad, of course, was an avid grouse hunter. And he would go down to a local filling station where all the hunters gathered and talked about grouse hunts and fishing and things like that. And I remember a time or two they were talking about Plott hounds. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I didn't know what a Plott hound was, and I didn't go any further. But someone in the Smithport community of Ashe County, that was about, 4 or 5 miles from where we lived, bought a Plott. And there was a contingent, including my father and his buddies, that made a special trip to Smithport to see that Plott hound. And that's about all I remember back then. But those old timers, and of course my dad and his hunting compatriots were talking about Plott dogs. And I ran into 2 articles. One was in Sports Afield, and the other one was in Outdoor Life about Plott dogs. And I was teaching school at that time, and we were out on a snow day or a teacher's work day, one of the two. And I called him and I said, "Would you care if I dropped by the high school library? I need to see the librarian." He said, "Well, sure, go ahead." And what I was doing, I wanted a copy of those 2 articles. One was written by David Duffy, "What is the Plott Hound?" And the other one, that was in Outdoor Life, and the other one was Jerome Robinson, the most prized big game dog in the world. That was in Sports Afield. And Laura Randall, just a really sweet lady and a good librarian, found those 2 articles for me and made me copies, and nice. I was off to the races. Anything I could find about Plott dogs, any picture, any printed material, periodicals or books, anything that I could grab, I read and kept if I could make a copy of it or bought. But that's about it. I met Taylor Crockett back in 1980.
Okay.
And I summoned enough courage to call Mr. Crockett and ask if I could come and see him. I wanted to talk dogs with him. And he was he's working at the Franklin Stone Company there in Macon County, North Carolina. He was working. He was a watchman, is what he was. And it was a part-time job. I met him there at the Stone Company, and we talked a good almost 3 hours.
Oh wow!
And Ben, you just wouldn't believe what that man could speak about. Mm-hmm. He knew all the old mountain strains and all the old mountain hunters, and he said, "Well, I've forgotten half of it. If he had forgotten half of it, I'd like to have heard the entirety."
Yeah.
I carried a tape recorder with me.
That's awesome.
And he let me to tape him. And I started carrying that tape recorder everywhere I went. When I went to interview some old folks or really prominent Plott people, I would take that tape recorder, and people would talk about that little man walking around with the tape recorder. Well, that was me. And I have, I guess, about 35 cassette tapes of folks talking Plotts, and
that's awesome.
Some of them were Smoky Mountain people. I mean, way back in the hills. You would walk in and I don't have this way they talk. I don't have no dog pictures. I don't know anything about Plott dogs. You'd get them warmed up, and they could talk Plott dogs, and they would probably scrounge around and find some old yellow photographs and show them to me. And it was a really thrilling sort of thing. And I'm always thankful that I had the opportunity to meet these people.
Yeah.
The greatest thing, the nicest thing, the greatest and nicest thing about the Plott dogs are the people who own them.
Mm-hmm. I will say that I find it very interesting that Plotts have probably the most diehard group of owners out of every breed. You know, there's guys that have black and tans, there's guys that have blue ticks, and there's diehards in those breeds. But as far as a group, like a collective group, the Plott people, once they have a Plott dog, there's no going back.
Well, I think you've made a correct assertion there. I've hunted with folks that just literally walked me to death and about killed me in the woods, even though I was in good shape. And I've been white-eyed a time or two, to tell you the truth. But anyway, they were very strong, physically strong people, and just would hit the woods, my goodness, and just had a zeal about them and a determination about them. And I would think, well, it's about time we could get back to the truck now. I'm looking forward to, resting a little bit.
Yeah.
And they turn it loose again, I'll declare. Anyway, they were a group of hawk people are determined. They really are. That's a good adjective to describe them.
Mm-hmm.
They're very dedicated. They're enthusiastic. And there's a fellowship among Plott owners, especially big game Plotts, bear and hog. And that's where most of our members in the American Plott Association come from. Yeah. They're big game people.
Mm-hmm.
And though they get together and there's just a grand fellowship. And one time we had, I'm probably talking too much here, Ben.
No, you're not. You're good.
Excuse myself, and I'm getting off on all sorts of tangents.
That's all right. That's what this is all about.
We had a big game rendezvous. We had it 2 years in a row. Big game rendezvous down at Jay Dorsey's Blackstock Lodge in South Carolina.
Okay.
And we could have a live bear then, and he had hogs. He had sort of a trophy hunter's lodge is what it was called. But you could go in and pick your big hog out, he'd load it up, take it out in the woods, and you could go run it and kill it.
Yeah.
But anyway, all the grounds were just full of people. Oh, my goodness. And the big snow of 1983 came during the last one we were there, and it marooned all of us practically. And we slept in chairs in Jay's basement, and Robert Whitehead and Taylor Crockett and Lawrence Porterfield and some of those other old-time fellas were there. And there were some young guys hunting with me, and I just looked at them and said, now you need to listen very carefully what these men say. And they were on a couch just side beside one another. And, we got an education that night. We earned our PhD in plottology.
There you go.
Yeah. Mr. Sam George is the same way. One night at Breed Days, I found myself, I was squatting. Sam was on one side and Elliot Bice was on the other. And I got an education that night. I really did. Those gentlemen were old-time hunters and tough hunters, and they knew their dogs. Oh my goodness, especially Elliot. He just had been all over the place and knew his dogs. He was originally a West Virginian.
Okay.
And Sam George lived in West Virginia as well. Of course, Elliot moved to Florida, and he would run those swamp bears, those call them hog bears, and those big boars down there, those big hogs. And every once in a while, he'd run across one of those Brahma bulls. They'd turn loose. You could range them back then in Florida. Yeah. And one time, his Plott dogs kept a mean bull off of him. Saved his life probably, but that's me. I was very fortunate to hook up with some bear hunters and hunt locally here, and rode to Wisconsin with Roy Stiles and Andy Blankenship, and hunted with the miners up there.
Mm-hmm.
And just to tell you the truth, I fell in love with the Plott dog.
Yeah.
and it's been such a major part of my life. Unfortunately, I neglected my family and my church life, which I deeply regret. But I've gotten back on the keel in regard to them. But the Plotts have really been such a big part of my life. And I'm down here in my playhouse. I call it my playhouse, and it's just decorated with all sorts of Plott stuff. Not so neat. I have a good library down here,
I'm sure.
and I have a cluttered desk too. But I've fed on Plotts, and I've been blessed to meet a lot of people and learn some good things and learn some good history about them. So I guess that's me in a nutshell.
I have been told by numerous people that you are the foremost Plott historian out there.
Oh, well, I know I don't know everything about them. I know a little bit about them, and I certainly appreciate the accolades. I do. There are others, who know who the old timers, especially.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Mr. Crockett, especially. But a lot of folks know a good many things about Plott dogs, and I fell in love with Mr. Crockett. I felt like a modern day Moses.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Crockett was the burning bush. And I got this feeling, you better take your boots off because you're walking on holy ground in terms of Plott dogs. And I got my first 2 Crockett Plotts from him February the 13th, 1983. And I've kept his strain until this past September. And being I've just gotten so old and decrepit, I couldn't really do them justice.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them to a couple of folks I knew who were hog hunters in Georgia.
Okay.
They're going to use them, I think, maybe to breed some, and maybe one female I was really impressed with. And if I had been in my prime, I could have made a good, decent dog from her, I think. But anyway, they left September 25th, 2025. Mm. And so I've had Crockett dogs from 83 to 25. 1983 to 2025.
Yeah. It's a long time to have the same line of dogs, that's for sure.
Well, I have, and some of them were pretty good dogs, and others just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. But I made myself a promise. Mr. Crockett was well up in years. He was in his late 70s when I met him, and I knew him for 16 years. Mm-hmm. And I hunted with him some. Anyway, I knew he couldn't last too much longer. He'd pass on, and I made myself a promise that I would try to carry on his stock.
Yeah.
After he had passed, and he had a stroke, and it was a very crippling stroke, and lost his voice, and wasn't able to walk. And I would go see him in a rest home in Franklin. And the last time I saw him, he was asleep, and I never even woke him. I just sat there. Mm-hmm. Oh, I sat there about 45 minutes. And, it wasn't long after that his wife, whose name was Ruth, called me and told me that he'd passed. And I sat down on my hearth and cried. Mm-hmm. I did. Oh, yeah. He meant so much to me, and
absolutely
a harbinger of Plott knowledge and Plott history, and it's thrilling to listen to him. And I'm just very fortunate to have captured him that way. And I met a lot of other folks that he had hunted with as well years ago, who were well up in years also, and I taped them. They were really funny. Some of them were.
I bet.
But anyway, they were old timers, and just enjoyed them so much. And some I just really took a chance in trying to find, and lo and behold, I located them.
Yeah.
And take Mr. Crockett with me, and we would sit on the front steps. One person lived in the oldest structure in Clay County, North Carolina. Wow. It was a log cabin that was clapboarded. We sat there on the porch and just had the best time.
Mm-hmm. Conkey's Outdoors is proud to be a sponsor of Tree Talking Time. Family, hunting, tradition is the Conkey's motto. They understand the importance of passing down the tradition of hound hunting. They are a family-owned business that treats you like family. They also understand the importance of having the gear you need when you need it. Conkey's carries everything for your next hunt, and it ships to your door quick. They also offer great warranties on all tracking systems and financing options. Check them out at conkeys.com. You can also use the code TreeTalkingTime5 in all caps to save as well.
So I breathed Crockett, ate Crockett's, and talked Crockett's, and walked Crockett's, and hunted Crockett's. But now there's a lot of other good dogs out there, and the Crockett's had some traits that the others didn't, and the others had a lot of good traits that the Crockett's didn't. Mm-hmm. So you have to pick and choose.
What did you like about obviously, Mr. Crockett meant a lot to you, but what about his dogs did you like?
Well, his dogs, the ones I had would tree coons and bears, mm-hmm. but their expertise lay in hog hunting.
Okay.
They had unsurpassed grit. It had no borders. Mm-hmm. And they, even though they were injured, they would still be in there. Mine could catch. And if you heard that, sometimes they'd catch when I wasn't there. Yeah. You hear that hog squeal, you better pick up your shoes and run real quick because that dog had caught that hog.
Yeah.
But their grit was unsurpassed. And their nose I would classify as not cold, but warm.
Okay.
But not hot. Mm-hmm. They were warm-nosed. And I had one female. The bear season was about over. It was in late December, and it closed January the 1st. And her name was Cricket, and she was a good dog, a real good dog. She had an excellent nose for a Crockett dog. Mm-hmm. And I remember I went to Thunder Hole over here in Caldwell County, and I was hunting by myself, walking down Thunder Hole Trail. Had her on the lead, and I could see a bear track in the trail there, and it was frozen. And I don't know how old it was. It could have been the night before, which I doubt. I think it was probably a few days old. Mm-hmm. And I noticed Cricket would stick her nose in every one of those tracks as we walked down. The bear took the same trail I was walking. I noticed Cricket would stick her nose in every one of those bear tracks as we were going down. And I said, "Oh, girl, if you think you can take that, I'm going to turn you loose." There's a big laurel thicket over there on the left across the branch, and she headed straight for that. And I just said, if there's a bear in there, she'll bring it out. And there was, and she came back to me. But I thought it was amazing that a Crockett dog would she didn't twig or anything, but she was sticking her nose in those successive tracks, as we were going, trying to smell them. She had a really good nose. And, I would classify her as my second best Crockett Plott.
Okay.
My best one was Angel. Crockett's Angel. And Crockett's Angel was line bred on Isaiah Kidd's rock. Had a lot of rock ancestors way back in her pedigree. She was line bred on kid dogs mainly, mm-hmm. but she was inbred as well. Had a lot of Von Plott in there as well, and she was a good little dog. And she'd tree anything from a field mouse to a bear. And a lot of times when I hogged her, she'd be the only one on the hog.
Okay.
And sometimes we'd have to head her off because she would be headed to no man's land, and we weren't supposed to be there, and she would have to hog by herself. But I've been on a pilgrim's journey, and I've enjoyed just about every bit of it. Some of it was sad, some of it was cloaked in anger sometimes, and sometimes it was disappointing. But I've been on a good journey, and I'm very fortunate, and I thank God for it. I do.
So how long did you go around with Mr. Crockett and recording?
I first went there in 1980, and he passed in 1996, I believe, 95 or 96.
Okay. So you went around for 15 years, almost.
15 to 16 years, and I didn't want to bother him. I didn't want to be, a pest, but I wish I could have been there every weekend.
Yeah.
Not just to hunt, but just to talk and be with him. And I would find, I would locate someone that I said, we better go see him. And he would say, well, I have somebody, we better go see them. And we'd get in that little blue Toyota station wagon, and we'd take off for parts unknown to me. And, he was just talking. I met some of the old cable people. You had the cable plots back in the Smokies. And Robert Lee Whitehead, just enjoyed him so much. And the family, Thomas Klingman Phillips family down in Clay County. Now, they were old timers. Now, I'm here to tell you. And Crockett got a lot of his dogs from them.
Okay.
They were called the Phillips or the Evans strain. And one of the premier dogs that he got from them, he got them from the patriarch of the family was Thomas Klingman Phillips. And he had moved from Haywood County down to Clay County. And you can picture it in your mind right now. They took everything they could on covered wagon, in a covered wagon.
Wow.
Every article they could. And drove their stock, their cattle, their horses, their hogs, their turkeys. And I visited them. Edna Phillips, she would have been his granddaughter, I think. Either his daughter or granddaughter.
Okay.
She had a brother, too. They were both unmarried, and they lived together. And the old house there where Thomas Klingman Phillips lived, and she could recount where they camped every night. It took 3 nights of camping to reach, to go from Haywood County down to Clay County.
Mm-hmm.
And they settled in a beautiful, beautiful valley called Tusquity. And I visited them. And anyway, Thomas Klingman Phillips had a son-in-law named John Cheeks. And John Cheeks gave Mr. Crockett 3 littermate pups. And they were inbred, brother and sister cross. Mm-hmm. And Crockett was logging then. He was a logger mostly. And he took those 3 dogs, 3 puppies, to logging camp. He let them run loose. And someone's old squirrel dog came into camp, and they got to buddying up with those little pups got to buddying up with that old squirrel dog. Every time that squirrel dogged a tree, the puppies would. And, of course, they were really making some fine dogs. One of them was Crockett's Leo. You've heard of Leo. And Leo was an exceptional dog. Mr. Crockett said it wasn't his favorite, but he was the most unique. Leo could hunt squirrels. All you need to do was shake a tree limb. He'd hunt squirrels. Very intelligent. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to hunt hogs and you'd seen a hog track, all you had to do was say, "Suey hog." And Leo just hunt hogs. And if you want to run a bear, just take him up to a bear track, point to it. He could smell it if you go. But the dog had such an intelligence that he could count hogs, Ben. You heard of collies being able to count cattle and count sheep. Old Leo could count hogs. And Taylor had a hog pen behind his house up in the woods, and I'd say he had 30 to 40 wild hogs in it. And he would turn those wild hogs out in the corn patch and let them hog down that corn when it was ready for them to eat. Leo would herd those. He could herd hogs. He could not only run them and catch them, but he could herd them. Mm-hmm. Herd them back in the lot, and he'd follow them, drive them back in the lot, get in there and lock with them, and all of a sudden he'd just bound out and go right back to where those hogs had been. And didn't take long. You'd hear a shoat squeal, and Leo had discovered one of them was missing. And he would bring that shoat back and put it in the loft.
Wow. That's something.
The old dog could count hogs. It's funny. When he caught hogs, as a young dog, he would bite their ears off. Mr. Crockett said he had a hard time breaking any of that, but he finally did. I don't know how he did it. But I have met others beside Mr. Crockett who just had such a good story to tell. It rivaled him. The old Cables and Robert Lee Whitehead and just some of these old timers. I met Sam Brown one time. Sam Brown hunted with Smithfield.
Okay.
And I interviewed Smithfield one time.
That's cool.
I caught him at the old John Sevier Motel. It had been revamped into assisted living center, but he was fully independent. He was doing well and had just a wonderful personality and just a warm sort of greeting about him. And we would just sit there and he'd tell about Smokey and Blue Joe and Old Heavy and those dogs. And the Smithfield party just came alive. Mm-hmm. That's one of the, in fact, I think that's the first person I ever interviewed.
Yeah.
And like I say, I've been very fortunate in meeting a lot of people. And the Plott dog that I really enjoyed learning about were those dogs that Von Plott sold to those Midwestern hunters, John Owens and L.M. Patton and Leonard Moffett, L.O. Wyckoff, those men. And they were bear dogs.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of coons in those cornfields and grain fields there in Iowa, and boy, they put on a show. Mm-hmm. And Patton and Moffett ordered 2 male dogs from Von Plott, and they arrived in Iowa by Railroad Express. And one dog was owned by Patton. It was Dan Plott. The other one was owned by Moffett. It was Buck Plott. And they just hunted coons superbly. And the two said, it's real funny. What prompted them to get these dogs is that Patton had picked up a farm flyer of sort, and it had a little article about the German coonhounds. And so they went down there and picked up those 2 male dogs.
That's funny.
Dan Plott and Buck Plott. Well, they decided to get them some females, and they took off from Iowa and rode in, I think, a 37 or 34 Dodge sedan. And Moffett said it had wooden spoke wheels and said it ran like a sewing machine. And they ate, this was probably in the early 40s, I'm going to say right after World War II began.
Okay.
And they drove from Iowa down there, and they had Thanksgiving breakfast or lunch at Maryville, Tennessee. Drove over through the Smokies, went through Newfound Gap, spent the night in the Cherokee Reservation. And they went into a local store and thought they'd get a bologna sandwich, and they did. And some young Indian teenagers came in and put on a show for them. They enjoyed that so much. But they went on to Plott the next day, and Vaughn just showed them everything he had, and they stayed a day or two with him. And they brought back with them Bess Plott, Patton did, and Lady Plott, Moffett did.
Okay.
And so you had Dan Plott and Bess Plott owned by Patton, and Buck Plott and Lady Plott owned by Moffett. And Bess was the first Plott registered by UKC.
Oh, cool.
And Dan Plott was the second. And Buck and Lady were up there pretty close to them. I can't remember exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Those dogs were all big game dogs, but buddy, they could treat tunes.
Yeah,
they could. And John Owens, I think, had gotten a dog from Von Plott as early as 1934. Owens King Plott. I know you've heard of him.
Okay.
And he had that old stock too that Patton and Moffett had brought back. John Owens was a superb breeder, and his line of dogs, which were essentially Plott dogs, Von Plott stock dogs, he bred them extensively, and that just made fine dogs. They really did. They differed from. There was a big turn in the 1960s among coon hunters who were hunting Plotts. They were moving toward a more hound-looking, houndy Plott. Ears and size and ball mouth and things like that. Whereas Owens dogs and Moffett sold out pretty early, and Patton died too soon. But L.O. Wyckoff and Sidney Ruth and the Feaster brothers, Jim and Jerry, continued that old line of dogs. And so you really had two camps. You had a more traditional style of looking Plott, real good cooners and exceptional big game dogs, and then you had a more modern Plott that were just really good on raccoons as well.
Yeah.
It really had two camps there, but anyway.
Didn't somebody in the Plott family call their dogs Plott curs and would get mad if you called him a hound?
Yes, that was Mott Plott.
Okay.
The original Plotts were not hounds; they were curs, as in the mountain cur. Yeah, that sort of cur. They weren't a mongrel cur. They were the type of. They had a lot of game in the mountains then. Henry Plott moved from the Piedmont of North Carolina into what is now Haywood in the early 1800s, and he was using those dogs, the cur dogs. There were brindle dogs there in the mountains before Henry Plott ever came there.
Okay.
But anyway, these were dogs, if I can say it correctly. There was a lot of game in the mountains, and they were dogs that looked for the hot track, the short race, and the quick tree or bay. Mm-hmm. That was what they did best. And it was Mott Plott. He was talking with Wesley Engel. Wesley Engel was up north of where Mott lived in a place called Snowball. I'm trying to think of the name of the county, Marshall County maybe. And he was spending the night with Mott Plott, and he said, "Are not the Plott hounds the best bear dogs?" And old man Plott got a little angered about it. Said they're not hounds, they're Plotts.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got too old to hunt, and when he bequeathed his dogs to his young son, Tom Plott, there are 3 of them that I have a picture of, and they're definitely cur dogs.
Yeah.
And they, Mr. Plott, slowly and surely bred them into a more hound-like sort of dog. And I'm here to tell you, he could breed a dog. He really could. The John Owens could. Isaiah Kidd. Oh my goodness, Isaiah Kidd could just breed exceptional dogs. They just had a knack to it. They could line bred and sometimes even inbred.
Mm-hmm.
And someone, I think it was Onstadt, that wrote a book, The New Art of Breeding Better Dogs.
Yeah.
And Mr. Kidd went by that, you know. He was working with dominance and recesses and things like that. They were unheard of by most people, but
yeah,
yet they knew if you had something good, you needed to stick with it.
Yeah. Rather
than diverge and go somewhere else. And that called for line breeding or maybe inbreeding if you had to. But either way, if you got a good thing, why change it?
Yeah.
You got to be careful when you outcross.
Absolutely.
You got to be very careful. I tried to keep Mr. Crockett's dogs the best I could, and I did make one instance of inbreeding. That was I got a dog named Cotton, and Cotton. Now let me think just a minute. Yeah, Cotton. He was white when he was born, and he was buckskin.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter named him Cotton. And the old female, which was Cricket, had a load of those puppies. And she had to have them by cesarean section. And I want you to know, being that dog laid down and let those puppies nurse off of her right after she'd had that operation.
Wow.
Yeah, and oh my goodness. But anyway, old Cotton was my favorite. He wasn't the best, but he was my favorite. And he would try to catch a bear. He was death on coons. And he could really do well on hogs. And, you know, I hog hunted him extensively, but he never got severely injured. He got nicked and cut a little and banged up and was sore and stiff for a while, but he miraculously lived through all those encounters. Mm-hmm. And, boy, he could catch hog. I'm here to tell you. That's a thrill. If you've ever been on the hog hunt and the dog would do that, that's quite a thrill.
Mm-hmm.
Roy Stiles gave me and let me breed to some of his Vaughn-bred dogs, and gave me, I bet, half a dozen or more.
Oh wow!
And anyway, I had some of Harold Rice's dogs. They were really Idaho Clyde, Gene White, and some Cascade in them. And
mm-hmm.
I've had all sorts and all manners of dogs. Yeah. Rex Minor, I went to breed days one time, and there was a puppy. The puppies walking around down there. Jim Walker said, "They're yours." Rex Minor sent them down to you. Hadn't even talked with me about them.
That's funny.
And one of them I named Blue Joe because he was Maltese. He was a good coon dog. Rex was a delight to be around. He really was. And he hunted the Vaughn Plott stock.
Okay.
Oh, they were good dogs. Good dogs.
Very interesting. I like this history, and I think, and I've read I've read Bob's book. I really enjoyed it, and I think that's, and even like the leopards, I think that's what I like about them in a lot of ways is the history of the breed, and like just the fact that they're an American breed. You know, walkers and English and blue ticks, are heavy English, foxhound bred dogs, right? And we all know that. And I just kind of think it's cool. The cur dogs and the leopards and the Plotts are all, an American creation of what worked for us. We didn't just kind of tweak something that came here. No, we straight up created something that worked for us. So
you hit the nail on the head right there. You did. There is a lot of things out there. You Google Plotts on your computer, and it's a story of one of the Plott forefathers breaking dogs from Germany and never crossing them with anything else. All this rigmarole. Based on my research and what I've been able to learn, I'm fully in agreement with you. The Plott was an American dog.
Yeah.
It wasn't a German dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's dogs in Germany that look a lot like them.
Yeah.
But when you consider when the first Plott forefather came, his name was Georg or George Plott.
Mm-hmm.
He did not come in 1750. He came in 1741.
Okay.
And he never went any further than the Philadelphia suburbs.
Gotcha.
He had a son, George Jr., who in 1767 or 68, came down the old wagon road from Philadelphia, moved into what was then Mecklenburg County, now Cabarrus County. And if you count up from 1741 to Henry Plott's birth date in 1770, that's a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And just have all sorts of doubts that George Jr. brought any dogs.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Plott was an American creation, a dog that hunted hot strike, a quick chase and a quick tree, a short chase and a quick tree.
Mm-hmm.
That was just old mountain cur dogs. You've heard toward the Die Gap, I guess. And, Amos Plott getting eaten up by a bear.
But at the same point, you figure, like you said, a hot track. We're talking a time frame when we didn't have tracking collars, so you didn't want dogs cold trailing, getting real far away from you. You wanted dogs that were
get them back. It'd be a hard way to get them back.
Like you talk to most modern big game guys, and it's like, their dogs are going miles and miles and miles, and they're covering mountain ranges.
You're exactly, yeah.
That's not the way a lot of those guys wanted to hunt, because they wanted to put meat on the table. We hunt a little different today because we hunt for pleasure. They didn't hunt for pleasure. They hunted because they had to.
Well, that's correct, and there was a lot of game and there were a lot of hot tracks, and those old cur dogs, including the Plott cur, were very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very intelligent. And, you have hounds today, Plott hounds, for example, and they're just all around you, and it's a pleasure to be around, and you don't want to pet them too much, but you enjoy them. But once you put them on the track, they forget about everything else. They're after that bear or whatever,
Yeah.
And they, as a breed, I think we've lost some of our intelligence in dogs. But these old Plott curs were very intelligent, and they figure heavy in mountain folklore and mountain tradition, but even in folklore, legend. There's a merit of truth in legend.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to sort some things out, and I believe I've found some things that were legendary characters that have beginning to ring true.
Yeah.
There were Plott dogs that came. Daniel Plott was George Jr.'s youngest son, and he moved to Arkansas.
Okay.
And the Plott family went out there and brought some of his stock, some of his hunting dogs, back via ox cart. That would have been in about the 1850s, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Plotts have a history. I don't mean to sound prejudiced, but the Plotts have a history, I believe, that no other breed of hound has.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you.
Unless you want to talk about the fox dogs, some of them,
Yeah.
George Washington was presented some fox dogs. They were blue Gascon in nature, Lafayette,
mm-hmm.
and George Washington said they ran when they opened up. It sounded like the bells of Moscow, but they were not coon dogs, so they were fox. And, they were not hunted on necessarily on big game either.
No.
Well, brook hounds, they came early too, and the old Irish hounds, they came in the early 1800s from overseas. But the Plott, as we know it distinctively, was an American creation.
Yeah, and then even the leopards and the mountain curs, while I agree they've been around probably just as long as the Plotts, they weren't bred quite as true or continually like the Plotts have been. Would be my assertion, in a lot of ways.
I think you're probably correct there. I've got a real old picture of two leopard dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a picture of a bride and groom right after their marriage, and they're posing with those two leopard dogs.
Yeah.
And that goes back, I guess, to the early 1920s.
Yeah.
But you're familiar with Reverend J. Richard McDuffie, I know, leopard. And he wrote extensively, on leopard dogs. And
mm-hmm.
he had a column fairly recently. Of course, I think he's passed now, but he had a column about breeding dogs and genetics and things like that. And I always copied it, and I have it in the notebook.
Breeding for better results.
You're exactly right.
Yep.
And he even created a breed,
Yeah.
He created one to hunt the ditches and the fence lines.
Well, I mean, and leopards, I'm not saying he created them, but he's the one that basically created the registry and created.
Oh my goodness!
The foundation stock. I mean, there were several other people that registered dogs in as foundation stock, but even looking back, a lot of those dogs, if you really start digging back into the weeds, like I said, they weren't bred true like the Plotts were. They were crossed up leopard colored dogs that got registered, as a leopard, or in the beginning as with the American cur breeders, and then it turned into American leopard cur breeders. But like I said, they just weren't bred like the Plotts, where it was like a handed down for generation after generation after generation.
Well, that's true. There's a Plott family, which I mean, and then there's a family of Plott men
mm-hmm.
who bred and hunted Plotts generation after generation.
Yes.
And you didn't always find that in such a large scale in other breeds like you would among the Plotts.
Yep. So we circle back to that die-hardness of the Plotts. It's alive and well today, but it's been forever.
Oh, yeah. I can remember, going on a coon hunt, and they were fellas that had never hunted with me, and they walked up to my truck or another fella's truck and saw a Plott dog there, and they jumped back. They were scared to death of it. They thought he was going to tear them up, bite them, but no, that wasn't the case always. But they were a very greedy dog, and Mr. Crockett made a comment. He said something like this: those old dogs wanted a track they could quickly get a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
Get a hold of. They just didn't go out and bawl and talk or bark here and there, and and hoop and holler. But they wanted something they could get a hold of really quick and work quickly, and that's what the old Plott dogs were. And they just a lot of people, I think, would be offended to think that the original Plotts were not hounds; they were curs.
Yeah.
But that's something to be proud of, I think.
Absolutely. But I'm a cur dog man, so.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Yeah. Now, Dewey Ledbetter, over there in Tennessee, he resurrected those mountain curs. He and some other Phillips and that elderly gentleman, he blessed his heart, had passed away 90 some years of age recently. I can't remember his name. Carl McConnell was one.
Hugh Stevens was one of them.
Yeah, Hugh Stevens was one of them. Well, the name has left me, but they saved the mountain cur in essence. Of course, Hugh Stevens cur, and then the Phillips man was the Tennessee treeing brindle of sorts, and McDuffie was the leopard cur, and Dewey Ledbetter was the mountain cur, and those fellows right there really did a good job. If you have something good, please hang on to it.
But I would
hang on to it.
And I would guess, there's no written history of this, but I would even say, through the 1800s, early 1900s, what we call mountain curs, Stevens curs, Kemmers, Plotts, leopards, a lot of them were probably really unrecognized. Like, they were probably all very similar and were bred back and forth a lot.
Mr. Reverend McDuffie said something similar to that.
Yeah.
They were leopard dogs and buckskin colored dogs and brindle colored dogs in southern Appalachia, and they were all curs.
Yeah.
And they were mixed together, and no real breed that you would identify, but they were just curs. And Reverend McDuffie was interested in Plott dogs.
Mm-hmm. Well, he used some.
Yeah, he did. He went to Isaiah Kids and used some in his development of the mountain cur.
Oh, I know. I have a copy of the papers of at least one dog he got from Isaiah Kidd.
Do you? Wow.
Her name is Cindy, I believe.
Okay. He made a trip or two to Haywood County to see Plott hounds. Now, this was in the early 60s. And he would ask people, do you know where I might find some Plott hounds? And they would reply and say, well, I don't know where your Plott hounds are, but I know where some Plott curs are. So they were still referring to Plotts as curs as late as the 1960s.
Yeah.
People in southern Appalachia. But we know by then the dogs were well on their way, becoming a hound.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with giving credit to where credit's due to these older gentlemen of times past who bred cur dogs.
Yep.
They gave us what we know as the Plott. They did. They did.
No, and you can even in certain lines of dogs, you can definitely see there's still some more cur type Plotts even today. And I would say it's more the big game stock, like you said.
Right. There is a group of people that you can find on Facebook, and they're an association of Plott cur people.
Yeah.
Plott cur type people.
Yeah.
They've got 1,000 or more people who read and have joined their group, and we owe a lot to bear hunters.
Yeah.
you didn't want to. If you were in a night hunt, you didn't want your dog to start fighting at the tree. You didn't want your dog to reach over and bite another dog at the tree, which some Plotts were selfish in that regard. So you had to tone the Plott dog down, the Plott hound down, so you could, kind of coon hunt with it and compete. And some just made superb champion coon dogs. Just some superb dogs, tree and coons. But you look at bear hunters as a group. Bear hunters have kept more to the line of the historic Plott than have the coon hunter fraternity. The dogs owned by Owens and Moffett, Patton, and Wyckoff, that group, I call them the historic Plott. And then when you graduate and get on over to the popularity of the night hunt, see, in the 1960s, the Plott dog just rocketed into popularity. It just burst upon the scene. And everybody had to have one, and not everyone was the most reliable and truthful breeder. There's a lot of people you never heard of that, you doubted a little bit about the authenticity of what they were advertising.
Oh, yeah.
Some people you never heard of. So, again, you had sort of two camps of historic model Plott and the upcoming successful coon hunting Plott.
Yeah.
But when you really look at it, we're all in the same fraternity. We're just different brothers in the same fraternity. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to be angry or mad or ill-tempered toward another. We really don't. We have a common love.
Yep.
That's Plott dog, and a common avocation, and that's hunting the Plott dogs. Mm-hmm. And I'm very proud of both camps. I really am. I am. I'm partial to the older style, but that just has to do with the type of hunting that I once did.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to call this one a wrap, John, but I've really enjoyed it. And one of these days, we're going to sit down face to face and do this again. That's for sure.
Well, I've enjoyed speaking with you, Ben. I really have. And it's so nice to have met you here on the phone and email and other ways. But I look forward to your publication. Let me ask you a quick question.
Absolutely.
Do I need to resubscribe to Full Cry? I think I still have another year or so on my subscription.
Nope. If you were a subscriber, it is your subscription will transfer over.
Okay. All right. I just didn't want to miss an issue.
Nope. That has been a common question, and I just tried to reassure everybody that everyone will get your magazine.
That sounds so good. I look forward to receiving it. I do, and I thank you for taking this up. I'm sure it's going to be quite a job to get this thing rolling again, and I just hope things go smoothly for you, and it's not too much of a bother. And I know you're looking forward to that little baby that's coming real soon.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And we are at the finish line for this first issue. There's a little hiccup with some postal stuff we're trying to get sorted out, but we're basically almost there and about ready to ship this first one out. Like I said, there's a little hiccup with some postal stuff because, the government and governmental agencies are absolutely super efficient, right? We all know that.
Well, when you go to my post office, they're not. Well, that's a disaster zone.
So
maybe when you get over this hurdle, things will go more smoothly for you.
I think once we're back in the groove, we should be fine. But it's just getting back into that groove. So
right, yeah.
So be on the lookout for it.
I shall. I shall.
But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me tonight, and I've really enjoyed this, John.
Well, I've enjoyed speaking with you. I hope I haven't bored you to death.
Not at all.
Thank you so much for allowing me to talk plots. I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talking Media. And until next time, keep them talking in the timber.